She by H. Rider Haggard. So this is episode 45 of a series I'm doing called The Masterpieces of Science Fiction. And this is a list of 140 books that Easton Press put together and published in their leather-bound volumes. They call it The Masterpieces of Science Fiction. And this is another one of the books that I've come across on this list that, in my opinion, and sounds like opinion of a lot of others, this really isn't a science fiction book. And that's fine. You kind of scratch your head wondering why Easton Press would put certain books in a series like that when they have other series, they have other lines they could publish these books in. But for some reason, this series, The Masterpieces of Science Fiction, definitely has some selections that I don't know how you could argue would be considered science fiction. Now that's fine. These are usually great books. There are a lot of classics, older novels that were put on the list because maybe they were groundbreaking or they were doing some different things. Now this book was written in 1887, and that could be one of the reasons. And H. Rider Haggard, he's probably most well known for King Solomon's Mines. I haven't read anything by him. This is the very first novel I've read by him. And it was good. It's definitely an adventure novel. Being written in the 1800s, it definitely has this kind of old-timey feel. Some of the language, terms they use. You'll notice it if you've read anything from H.G. Wells or maybe Edgar Rice Burroughs, some authors like that. There's probably plenty of other authors from this era that were writing adventure novels, but I haven't really been exposed to too many of them. I've read plenty of H.G. Wells, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Jules Verne, some of those, but that's kind of my limit of novels from the 1800s that I've read. Now, let's just go ahead and get into what this book is about. So, in the beginning, we start off in England at Cambridge University, and our main character, Horace Hawley, and he's referred to as Hawley through most of the book. This is from the point of view of him, and there's some edits that are done throughout the book too, almost like he was going back and revising these like field notes or something. It was kind of done in a unique way. And when we start off in the book, we're introduced to Hawley, and he's kind of just your average guy, maybe not the most attractive, maybe a little on the short side, stocky. He's just kind of a normal guy. And he's approached by one of his co-workers whose name is, I think, Vincy. Now, Vincy has a son named Leo, who becomes the other main character, basically, in the novel. But Vincy comes up to Hawley and says, I'm not feeling good. I think I'm going to die. I need someone who I can trust to raise my child with me being gone, because the child was fairly young at the time. And so Vincy offers to pay Hawley to take care of his son all the way up till he turns the age of 25. And at that point, he gives him this box and he says, I want you to unlock this box and you'll find out what's going on here once my son Leo turns 25. So that's kind of the setup, and we spend a little bit of time getting to know Horace and Leo, or Horace Hawley and Leo. And then the day finally comes when he turns 25, and they open up this box, and there's basically these, it's a little mysterious, but there's some instructions and a map and directions to go to this place down in Africa. And so they gather up and go on this grand adventure. We've got Horace, Hawley, we've got Leo, their sidekick Job, and they go on this adventure to find out why Leo's dad, Vincy, saved all this information, why he had to wait till he's 25, what it had to do with Leo. And that's really the majority of this story, is them going on this adventure. They hop on a boat, they sail down to Africa, they run into trouble right away, they meet tribesmen, they get kind of taken all over the place, and ultimately they get introduced to She Who Must Be Obeyed. And this is kind of a representation of her on the cover here. And she's kind of like this mystic, mythical being who appears like she's almost immortal and has some of these powers, but as you read through the book, you'll find out more and more. You'll unlock the mysteries of who Leo is, and you'll go on a big grand adventure. So that's mostly what this book is about. It was only 250 pages. It's a pretty easy read. It's mostly them, describing this adventure, and there's a lot of action and a lot of that kind of stuff. So it was a good book. I've read other things from this era, like I mentioned, and I do prefer that science fiction edge that H.G. Wells put on his books and Jules Verne. But this was good. It was a good adventure book. I don't think I would have read this if it wasn't on the list, though. And having read it, I might recommend it to some people who were interested in reading an old adventure tale. But honestly, with H. Rider Haggard, it might be better to start off with King Solomon's Mines. So I'm not sure. I read it. It was okay. I don't regret reading it or anything like that, but it's probably not one that's going to be too memorable for me or really stick out as one of the top books on this list. It was well written for its time. It does have a little issues with being written in the 1800s and what was going on socially back then, but it was overall, fairly tame in that manner compared to some of the other books that I've read. So that's it. Number 45 is done. And next up, I'm reading The Best of Frederick Brown. Making good progress on this one. Towards the end of the month, I'm going to do another video with Matt from Science Fiction Reads and Richard from Vintage SF. And we're going to talk about the short stories in that one. So the next video I might have out is my monthly wrap-up. It's been a light month. I've had some personal issues going on. I might talk about that briefly in the monthly wrap-up, but just look for that video or look for my next review video coming out probably soon after that. And once again, thanks for watching.